I mean, come on. Picture this. Picture this scenario. Picture this. What is more productive? What is more honorable? What is more virtuous? Having a skill and using it for good in the right context, within the right boundary, or being half-assed with it, being irresponsible with it, waving it around, not caring about the consequences, not really focusing on who it might damage, only having a short-term mindset. What happens? This skill, it becomes something that hurts others. This fire can spread. It can be contagious. It can burn things that you might not have intended to burn. It can literally scorch the earth. So think about the power that a woman has in terms of this special privilege, how she uses it nowadays. They want to call it empowerment, right? Call yourself a queen, right? No, you're a tyrant. This type of woman you do not see. This type of woman exists all around you. She is more common than you think. Yes, there's some satire in the title, but understand, there's a purpose to this video. These type of women, they have a very common story and they share a very common upbringing and an origin. This villain is very common. Now, let me tell you a story of a girl called Karen. No relations, by the way. Karen, she was in a family, mother and father. How do fathers tend to treat their daughters? They tend to spoil them. They tend to treat them like they're princesses. They tend to be very protective of them in comparison to how they are their sons. Okay? We have a level of pampering. We have a level of psychological rearing where the daughter is taught she's a princess, that she should demand certain things out of the world because of who she is as a girl. Then you have on top of that the ideology that comes from politics and the new culture of the day, which is you can do anything, you can be anything, you can do whatever you want, don't let anybody stop you, don't let anyone tell you no. Now, going to the educational years of her upbringing. Her teachers treat her with a little bit more care and a little bit more protection than the boys. That happens, and that's concurrent, and that goes on through K through middle school to high school. What happens in high school? In high school, she goes through puberty, and Karen starts to really understand the dynamic of male and female. She starts to really become more acutely aware of the opposite gender, the males around her. She starts to become attracted. She starts to kind of develop feelings. But what does she realize as a young age, as most women do when they're that age? You really get to understand the dynamic of male and female dynamics and the interplay between the two sexes. The interplay is generally this: boy likes girl, boy seeks the approval of girl, boy writes letters to girl, boy gives girl preferential treatment. Once again, boy kind of treats her with more regard. Why? Because he likes her. He wants to gain something out of her, so he is trying to win her over. So through the pubescent stage, she comes first in contact with the fact that boys at a young age do the initiating. They do the approaching. She first comes into contact with this dynamic. Here's the pivot. Depending on the level of attraction that the woman has, generally speaking, objectively speaking, she will get more and more favored throughout her educational years. And this continues on to college, and it becomes intensified onto college. Because as a boy becomes more and more mature, at least by the hormonal sense, and his intellect, he becomes more and more crafty in ways as to which he can get the woman. As Karen transitions from adolescence to adulthood, going into college, what happens? Karen gets even more of an intense amount of attention, validation seeking from the opposite gender. The male is now even more so pursuing Karen. Karen in this pivotal moment, she becomes used to it. She becomes expectatious of it, if that's even a word. She begins to expect this type of attention. She becomes entitled to it. She takes it for granted. It becomes old to her. It's no longer interesting. She gets jaded. She starts to lose regard for men in a sense. Let's take a break for a second. Picture this. You as a person, you get a job interview, $25. You're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna think about this. I don't know if I want to transition from this job to the next, or maybe you don't even have a job. You're thinking, you think, oh wow, $25 an hour, that might be a lot for you at the time. But here's the catch. You get another one in the next hour, and it's $26. You get another one the next hour after that, and then in 30 minutes, and then for the next 40 minutes, and before you know it, by the end of the day, you have 10 applications. Now you have options. You have, actually, in reality, these businesses competing for your employeeship. What happens? You then try and pick out and select the best one for you, okay? Now think about that. Over a span of a week and then a month, you have had 500 applications, all varying in different types of wages that they're going to give you. But where is the power? What is the power dynamic? The dynamic is the employee is being wooed, he's being wooed by all of these businesses where they are constantly trying to get this person to be their employee, and they're offering many different types of packages and hourly rates. What happens? This person starts to think, oh snap, all these companies want me. What is a person's behavior going to be like that? They're going to be less prone to keep a job because they know they got jobs lined up. They're going to be a little bit aloof when they find another application in their mailbox. They're going to say, how is this employee any different from the thousands of other applications I got? Okay, oh wait, you have a higher rate? Wow, you know what, I'll consider that. But what type of behavior can you think logically would follow this type of treatment from employers? Well, she's going to be a little bit less caring of her job because she's got many jobs lined up. She's going to tolerate less mistreatment from her employer, right? Because what? You have tons of businesses that are going to swoop you up as soon as you let this one go. So think about that. In the pivotal moment of the woman's adolescent or maybe adult years, where Karen is what? Being constantly hit with applications. Hey, will you go out with me? Hey, will you be with me? Hey, will you want to spend time with me? Hey, can I invite you to my dorm room? Hey, do you want to X and Y? Hey, constantly being pursued. So what happens? The power, she starts to really understand, man, this is something I can use to my benefit. Now, pause this story. What do you see in comic books? The villain and the hero both have powers. One uses them for good. The other one doesn't always use them for bad. Sometimes a villain is just a villain because he uses his powers for himself. He has a very fleshly and carnal understanding of what he can benefit from using his powers. He doesn't think about the long-term effects of his actions and how he uses his powers. It's merely to use his invisibility to rob a bank or use his super strength to get over and extort money from others. He joins a certain gang. His power is used for his own self-interest. That is usually a type of villain in comics. It's a very understandable line of reason. With great power comes great responsibility, but instead, the villain uses it to their own end, and it's a means to an end of their own self-interest. Now, going back to the Karen. Karen understands now this power, but she's no longer at home with a protective family or a community. She's now in a global marketplace, dating apps, social media, college campus. All these things are applications constantly being sent to her. Validation, approval-seeking men, constantly trying to hire her, right? What happens? She becomes hyper aware of this type of relationship. I, as a female, can garner resources, time, attention, money approval, favor, sympathy from other men. I mean, come on. Picture this scenario. Picture this. What is more productive? What is more honorable? What is more virtuous? Having a skill and using it for good in the right context, within the right boundary, or being half-assed with it, being irresponsible with it, waving it around, not caring about the consequences, not really focusing on who it might damage, only having a short-term mindset. What happens? This skill, it becomes something that hurts others. This fire can spread. It can be contagious. It can burn things that you might not have intended to burn. It can literally scorch the earth. So think about the power that a woman has in terms of this special privilege, how she uses it nowadays. They want to call it empowerment, right? Call yourself a queen, right? No, you're a tyrant. This is where the villain is created. Somewhere, I don't know, I guess it can happen in different aspects. Karen could have been a villain if she realized this and used it to her end in high school, adolescent years, to college, further on. But eventually, it becomes a subconscious thing where now I have my body, my looks, my femininity, the way I use my voice, the way I carry myself, how I interact with men. I use it all, sometimes subconsciously, for my advantage and to my advantage. So playing the victim, being weak. Sometimes you can play to your skills so that you can get something over other people. And what is this usually how do you usually see this villain? This villain, for all intents and purposes, is the type to always want to protect their power. They don't want to give it up, or they don't even want to acknowledge it. These are the type of people that'll be in the comments saying, well, men should just avert their eyes. Men just need to be more of a man and accept this type of behavior. They'll usually try and flip the blame or the responsibility back onto the other person. Now, these behaviors make up the supervillain, the female supervillain, because she doesn't want to improve. She only wants to use her skills to her own benefit. She doesn't want to be considerate of the males. She only wants to do what's best for her. What does that usually look like? Somebody who's not considerate someone who's not considerate with what they wear. They don't care about the fact that it could potentially affect children, minors. They don't care about the fact that they might be leading with the wrong message. They don't care. But they understand that this is a power. This power, although they could have used it responsibly, they want to instead use it for their own personal gain. And what do they gain from it? Well, a lot of times women, for some reason, or reasons I'm not even going to get into in this video, insecure, emotional, they feel like they're less than. So how does this woman gain power? She gains power through the sexual influence she has to avert a man's eyes in oncoming traffic, to have men gravitate towards her just because of the way she walks or the way she dresses, to contort her body in certain angles and pictures and views to get attention and popularity, and therefore sometimes sponsorships and merchandise deals. What does the woman nowadays do? She uses this power irresponsibly, and that's what makes her a villain. Now, I want to make a disclaimer here. And the disclaimer is there are male supervillains. Don't get it twisted. I'll probably make another video about that in the future. I intend to. But for now, I wanted to point out the fact that this type of woman is very common. So going back to Karen, there was a pivotal moment in her life as to which she could have acknowledged the power she had and used her influence for good. But that's probably going to be even another video I'll make in a later time. So yeah, just thank you guys for watching the vids. I appreciate, your patience, and I appreciate I appreciate you guys taking the time out of the day to even consider the ideas I got. So with that being said, I'll take care.